We light this fifth candle in the season of Lent. We think about our journeys. Some of those journeys carry us into the water and above the water. They help us to move as groups together in community.
Welcome. I'm Nancy Dill, Grosvenor Park United Church's congregational leader for today. On behalf of me, our minister, the Reverend Mubuko Iwai, and our congregation, welcome to the recorded portion of Sunday worship for March 21st. Please note that on Sunday mornings at 10:30, we also have a Zoom time for prayers of the people and a coffee hour. The meeting number and the ID number are available from the church office or found in the leaflet, our weekly information offering. And now, passing of the peace. Wokotowin, Ma'ala Amani. God calls us to live in peace. Two-spirit, LGBTQ plus and ally. Seeking reconciliation as Treaty 6 people. As we gather on Treaty 6 land and the traditional homeland of the Métis, and recognizing the non-treaty Dakota First Nations and the Roundtree Métis, who were instrumental in the building of the city of Saskatoon. As we journey together in Lent, the peace of Christ be with us all.
Hi, welcome to Grosvenor Park United Church online service.
Welcome to Grosvenor Park United Church for our online service. I know you'll enjoy it.
And lies in waiting for the spring, and lies in waiting for the spring. This fallen grain will rise to life. This fallen grain will rise to life.
I want you to imagine that we're part of a great, big, beautiful garden. And in our garden, there's a huge, gorgeous sunflower. And it's seed time, planting time in the garden. And the sunflower mother has something important to say. My little darling ones, the time has come for you to leave me. You will fall to the ground, and the soft earth will cover you and hold you, and you will be buried in the darkness for many days. You will feel like you are dying, but you won't be dying. You'll be changing and growing. It's the way of life. One of the seeds, named Carla, said, "Oh, sounds so mysterious and important." Her friend Philomena said, "Oh, it sounds horrible. I don't want to die. I don't want to change." The sunflower mother smiled sadly. She knew there was no other way. The next day, the sunflower mother leaned over, and all the little seeds fell to the soft ground. As they fell, Carla called out, "Goodbye, Philomena." But Philomena did not hear her. She was too busy hanging on for dear life. Finally, though, she fell away. But instead of landing in the garden, Philomena landed on the garden path. What a stroke of luck, she thought to herself. I'm safe. I'm not going to die after all. And she rolled to the side and hoped for the best. Life on a pathway is not really that great. But she survived. In fact, she was so busy surviving, she didn't notice that her shiny, bright coat was becoming dry and cracked. She was becoming all shriveled up. Early one morning, she was woken by a voice right next to her. "Philomena," the voice said. And she didn't know who it could be. "Philomena, over here in the garden." And right there next to her was a tiny green shoot with tiny spring green leaves. "It's me, Carla." "Carla, you've changed. You're beautiful. What happened to you?" It was just like the sunflower mother said. I can't describe how wonderful it was. I felt so happy. I wanted to sing. Philomena began to cry. "Oh, I wish I could be like you. Oh, I wish I could have a second chance." Just then, a raindrop fell. And Carla smiled. "Well, maybe you can." It was the first rain in many, many days. And first it drizzled, then it puttered, and then it poured, and little rivers of water began to flow. And Philomena was caught up and washed right into the garden. The wet ground opened to receive her, and suddenly she was surrounded by darkness. She did not know how long she lay in the ground. All she remembered that she began to feel like she was about to burst. Then she did. Then she could feel something inside of her push its way up and out towards the light of the sun. When little Philomena poked her first little green shoot out of the earth, she was greeted with cheers and laughter. All the flowers in the garden were waiting for her to emerge. "Welcome, Philomena," they said. "Welcome to your new life." And Philomena was filled with great joy.
The truth of the matter is, unless a grain of wheat falls on the ground and dies, it remains only a single grain. But if it dies, it yields a rich harvest. If you love your life, you will lose it. If you hate your life, in this world, you'll keep it for eternal life. Hear what the Spirit is saying to the church. Thanks be to God.
Love knocks and waits for us to hear, to open and invite. Love longs to quiet every fear and seeks to set things right. Love knocks and enters at the sound of welcome from within. Love sings and dances all around and feels new life begin.
What will the church look like in 500 years? Well, probably we won't have to carry heavy hymn books anymore. We hardly do anymore anyway. The music will continue to evolve, and we might even have some old favorites that we'll still recognize. And probably church buildings will look different 500 years in the future. And while many things may change, we have changed in this pandemic, one thing I think that remains is the need for people to be in community. Maybe not physically, but still in community, to connect, to praise, to pray. And if things are going to be different 500 years from now, how will we need to make changes in the next 5 years to prepare for the next 50, to prepare for the next 500? This morning, we heard Jesus' words according to the Gospel of John. There's mention about planting seeds. Some of us plant seeds literally. Some of us plant seeds metaphorically. In both cases, we're looking for the miracle of growth and of wonder. Sometimes we are fearful of change and of growth. We fear closure, maybe closure of the church, and not right this very day, not immediately, but maybe someday. And we might live in the fear of not having enough. And we need to examine those fears. If we allow unexamined fears to lead us into making decisions, then perhaps the paths that we take are not the paths that we take in faith. As we hear Marnie speaking about canoeing, we think about the seeds she tried to plant for her children to love the earth. Seeds require nurture. Seeds require care, water, air. And the thing is, when we plant something, we don't know exactly what's going to emerge, what it will look like. And sometimes it might look totally different from what we expect. We work with each other. We work with God, with creation, to tend seeds, to grow today and tomorrow. Hi, Marnie, and thank you so much for being here today with us. And during the season of Lent, we were talking about journeying and how people journey in different ways.
My relationship to canoeing, I guess in terms of history, started mostly when I was in high school. I was interested in enough in it that I joined the canoe club. We did a little trial canoe trip in the Qu'Appelle Valley, which I got very wet at. And then we went on a week-long trip up north in the Churchill River system. It was fabulous. It was just a real pivotal experience. It's one of those, wow, if I hadn't had that experience, I don't know that I would have then taken other opportunities to do so. So my other opportunities came in the way of being connected with Grosvenor, actually. We had this great thing at one time, the silent auction. And on 2 different occasions, Lauren and I bid on canoe trips with the Ganders when our kids were quite small. So they weren't really even much help paddling at that point. But I was hoping that it would instill some love of canoeing or canoe camping or just the whole being out in nature, which it did as well. Later on in Grosvenor history, Gary Story and David Kim Craig were instrumental in doing some more canoe tripping. So that's been good. And somewhere in the middle of that, about 20 years ago, a couple of women, primarily physiotherapists, made this group. It was kind of spearheaded by Kathy Watts, our dear friend. So that has become a real touchstone in my year and in my life. Obviously, being on the water is very life-giving. The meditative quality of putting your, paddle in the water repetitively is serene. If the water is calm, when somebody says go to your happy place, that is where I go. But of course, all canoeing is not easy. The other side would be the challenge. So the challenge is also very affirming for me to know that I can face those challenges. And in a large part for myself, I face those challenges with a group or community. One of my favorite stories is going on the Grosvenor Park trip, the first one. Bill Von Orosky was on that trip and actually provided some of the canoes, I believe. And he and I were paddling together the first day, and it was against a headwind in waves. So it was hard work. And about an hour into it, he turned around and said, I thought this was supposed to be fun. The fun is sometimes not in the moment. I don't go through life being able to face challenges on my own all that well. And I am very dependent on, well, in that case, Mother Nature, but in all cases, other people to bring their gifts to the canoe trip, to the campfire, to the day that I may not have, and being okay with that. I'm not the best fire starter. I'm not the best stern person, whatever, but I don't have to be to spend a long time with that person in a boat without other distractions. And that's a real gift. It doesn't matter who you paddle with, whether they're a naturalist or whomever, you always learn something from them about paddling or nature or camping or about life. Big appreciation of creation. We just feel so fortunate and really blessed, the water, the land, and the people that you're with. I think that just the gift of kindred spirits who kind of see the world in a similar way to you, who appreciate the gift of nature and wilderness that we have here in Saskatchewan and Canada, nourishes me. And that's something that most people are looking for. The lesson is, how do we save it? Especially, it's very empowering for women to go on a canoe trip without men, knowing that you have the power within you to give yourself space and nourishing. It kind of fills me up. Well, I would say that the paddling trips we've done, even with Grosvenor folks, have been like going on a church retreat. You get to know people pretty well, pretty quickly when you see them get out of their tent in the morning, and go off to the toilet, or, try and start a fire together, or, laugh together, go through hardship together, right? Because it's like, gosh, that was really hard paddling. Or, oh my, it's thundering and lightning. When do we get off the water? Now. And where do we go for shelter? The prospect of going each year actually propels me. It's like, okay, if I want to go canoeing, then I have to stay strong enough to go canoeing. I have to maintain the relationships with the people that I want to paddle with. So it does sustain some things for me throughout the year. I think just like I am always kind of having that future, like, oh, this summer I'm going to go paddling, something to look forward to, because many of us have very little to look forward to right now. I think that's one of the biggest struggles I have with COVID. There's nothing really, oh, I'm not going on this trip or going to this concert, or, those anchors that kind of keep you going. But there's no reason I can't go paddling. There's no reason I can't go out in nature. So that sustains me. It's those experiences of joy, as Gary's story proclaims, it just doesn't get any better than this. The other part of it is just the fun factor. And that is with being with other people. I don't think I'd have as much fun if I was being on my own, especially when, like Nabucco falls in the water. That was fun. When you're on the water, you really can't be thinking about the world's problems. Yeah, it's very much in the moment. It's repetitive, meditative. There's a simplicity about being on the water and being completely, I guess, free of other worries. You're only worrying about the next paddle stroke and the next kilometer, or where you're going to camp, which are very different worries than at home. And it's just a matter of one foot after the other, one paddle stroke after another. I think the lessons are just that nature will always nourish you. And unless we destroy the world completely, then that is always a place we can retreat to. And it's been very apparent during COVID times that is one place that we can go, is outside. So I think just the connection with nature is very big. I try and think a lot about my breath, even though I would have to admit, I might rage on in my head if it's something that's made me angry or I'm worried. Trying to dislodge the worry, the stress with breathing, and then just the healing qualities of fresh air and movement are so apparent to me. Kind of maybe trying to flip it to, I'm so thankful I can walk out the door and do this. So by the end, I always feel better.
In the bulb there is a flower, in the seed an apple tree, in cocoons a hidden promise, butterflies will soon be free. In the cold and snow of winter there's a spring that will
As we light these candles, we offer our silent prayers. Prayers of gratitude, prayers of thanksgiving, prayers of wonder, prayers of concern.
And now the prayer that Jesus taught us. Our Father, Mother, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
And lies in waiting for the spring, and lies in waiting for the spring. This fallen grain